So they are willing to sacrifice their children to monsters of old, to demons, demons in human flesh, to not embarrass the church. You know what's funny? Is organized religions love to, of course they love to attack queer people and they love, Reza says, what's funny that these organized religions love to attack queer people and call them pedos and nunces and etc. It's like, of course they do, because thou protest too much. Every accusation is a confession. The sickness is in their minds. So they're like, well, of course you're sick like I am, because they're monsters. So they can only see things through a monster's lens. Apparently I've been cutting. I made a video about this Candon Dahle scumbag who essayed a young child for 5 years and only got probation. Apparently I'm one of the only content creators talking about this. People are telling me in the comments. They're like, hey, I haven't seen this anywhere. Hey, I knew about this, but I couldn't find any videos on it. And I'm like, I have a YouTube channel of 1 month old. I should not be breaking news about, assaulters who have escaped justice. It feels like the real legacy media should be doing that. But in case you don't know who this scumbag is, we'll dip into this. And we'll dip back into it. Here's a Cliff's Notes version of who this trash bag is.
C4 News update for you. The former BYU pitcher who stands accused of sexually assaulting a child pleaded guilty. Candon Dahle was a pitcher for the Cougars in his senior season.
Who cares? I don't give a damn if he was a pitcher for the New York Yankees at this point. Who cares anything about that? He essayed a child. This is not relevant information.
A few months ago, he was extradited to Idaho from Utah to stand trial for this case. Now he's pleading guilty to 2 counts of injury to a child. He's facing up to 10 years in prison. He hasn't been sentenced just yet.
Now you see the pictures that they show. That's media for you. We're talking about a man who essayed a child, and the pictures that they choose to show in the media tells you all you need to know. But this isn't, apparently Utah and apparently the Mormon community has, this has been a problem for a while. And it's obviously not like Mormons have a monopoly on essaying children. They can all take a number. The Catholic Church, Boy Scouts of America. Yeah, exactly, Reza. Describes a scumbag, shows nice smiley pictures. That's called having a complexion for the protection. That's what that is. That's called having a little money, and having a complexion for the protection. But apparently this is a thing in Utah because the Mormon community is kind of a closed community, kind of a closed circle, and it lets, these kind of monsters run around unregulated, unchecked, unchallenged, like orcs in Middle Earth or something. So let's take a look at some of the. Let's take a look at some of the Mormon community's greatest hits.
And driver's ed instructor in Washington County made his plea in court today as he faces more than a dozen sex abuse charges.
This comes after more victims have come forward. Elise Haas was in Washington County Court and has the latest on this year-long investigation.
Former Mormon leader and driver's ed teacher Paul Burdick pleaded not guilty in the Washington County Justice Center as he faces 15 sex abuse charges. Each charge represents a victim in his case of abusing girls while taking his driver's ed course at Portland Community College. Since his arrest became public, 10 more victims have come forward. All students have similar stories while Bishop Burdick was teaching them how to drive.
He was staring at their bodies, making inappropriate comments, and was touching them in intimate areas.
Detective Mark Polovny started the latest round of investigation in 2018. Originally, deputies arrested Burdick for the same crime in 2016, but the district attorney...
Fucking thumb looking ass. They all look like that's the phrenology. That's the cop / domestic abuser / child essayer phrenology. They all look like fucking thumbs. Like look at that. Look at this. And it's like, what's the difference between these two pictures? They're the same picture. What is that, dude? What is that about? Like a soft, white Oscar Mayer wiener looking thumb ass.
He decided to drop the case due to a lack of evidence. But last August, more students came forward, reporting abuses during driving lessons with Burdick.
Obviously, right away, we were concerned because this was the second pair of girls who'd come forward now in 2 years reporting very similar things.
Portland Community College and the Church of Latter-day Saints removed him from his roles immediately as detectives searched for more victims. At this point, they found 30 in total who were 15 or 16 at the time of the abuse.
But what we see in working our child abuse or sex abuse cases is that the people who want to do this will look for those opportunities where kids are, and we know that.
That's why detectives were concerned that as a bishop at the Church of Latter-day Saints, he would have access to kids. Through their investigation, they learned that multiple children who went to the church took driving lessons from him.
Because they knew that, their families knew that he's a driver's ed teacher, and they know him, and they sent their kids through driver's ed with Bishop Burdick from their church.
As this sex abuse case moves through the court, detectives want to make sure parents are talking to their kids about this.
I want to encourage parents and kids to have that conversation and know these are the clear boundaries. This is what's okay and this is what's not.
Detectives say abuse starts small, and no child should ever be taken advantage of. In Washington County, Elise Haas.
But wait,
Brothers and
there's more.
sisters, I'm happy to stand
we'll
before...
save that for last. We'll save that for last because...
Brothers and sisters, I'm happy to...
That's
Vance
actually...
Hine was
We'll
a
save that for
scoutmaster,
last.
respected member of the Mormon Church, and now a convicted pedophile.
I am correct that you, on occasion, would tie
Another
Melvin
thumb.
up? Yes.
Another thumb. Another boiled hot
Vance
dog.
Hine fooled everyone.
At that point, I started crying.
Why were you crying?
Shame, scared. I'm 14 years old. I'm in the middle of nowhere with Vance, and he's asking me to remove my clothes. I felt like it was wrong.
Yeah.
For years, the clues were
was.
there. Evidence discounted.
No blame on you, though,
Even
brother.
a state
You're
trooper
just
wrote in a police
baby.
report he believed Vance Hine was a sexual predator. But for the Boy Scouts of America and the Mormon Church, those warning signs were missed. Melvin Novak was 5 years old when he met Vance Hine at church. But it was here at Camp Horseshoe in Chester County, Pennsylvania, when Hine became his scout leader. They became close.
He always had something I wanted, whether it was spending time with me, whether it was buying me something cool that a kid would want, whether it was taking you places kids would want to go, taking special interest in me, basically noticing me.
Years of what Novak and his family thought was a love.
It's just gross because what do you do? Like, as a parent, I don't have kids. And this is one of them things that's like, I'm not going to have kids because I don't know how I could help them navigate this world, because what do? You want your child, you don't want to be a helicopter parent. You want your child to have freedom. You want them to be able to take risks, in a safe way and be in the Boy Scouts and learn to swim and become their own person and slowly kind of take off from the nest that you've created for them so they can be a fully realized human being. But then there's literal monsters out here waiting in places where they know your children are going to be, like storybook villains, waiting to take advantage of your children and ruin them for life. How do you navigate that as a parent? I don't know.
Mentorship. But that all changed when Hine asked him to join a secret club. A quote, brotherhood.
He just said, I'm a part of an organization that's deeper into the Boy Scouts, and it's a journey that would, build you and me a bond together.
An abusive journey that occurred at Hine's home and here at Boy Scout camp.
This time he took a branch. He just found like a twig in the woods and just used that to smack me. And a lot of times hit me in the genitals.
What the fuck?
However, that ritual was just a cover-up for a come-on that culminated in a hotel room.
There's just one final thing. You need to fully commit to me as your brother, not my spirit guide anymore, but now as his brother in the brotherhood. And that's when he got on his knees and started to give me oral.
Oh,
and I just sat there,
Did I just break TOS? Even playing this? I mean, it's CNN. It should be fine, but my God, so disgusting.
Tears rolling down my face, crying.
15 years later, Novak decided to sue, one of at least 5 lawsuits across the country, blaming not only the Boy Scouts of America, but the Mormon Church for sexual abuse they suffered in the Boy Scouts. The lawsuit charges Vance Hine actively groomed young boys under his charge for later sexual molestation.
The LDS Church knew that Vance Hine, this pedophile,
And they
was
knew.
already kicked out of the scouting by.
You know, and I know this is a religious organization, so I can't, you know, Mormons, it's a whole different thing with golden plates and Brigham Young and all that. But I know it's like, when we talk about this, especially when religious people do this kind of disgustingness, it almost mirrors the stories in the Bible, to where these children are being sacrificed by these religions, so that way the religion can have an unbroken chain and not get embarrassed, not get exposed. The money can keep coming in, the church can keep getting richer, and so they are willing to sacrifice their children to monsters of old, to demons, you know, demons in human flesh, to not embarrass the church. You know what's funny is organized religions love to, of course they love to attack queer people, because, and they love, you know, Reza says, you know, what's funny that these organized religions love to attack queer people and call them pedos and nunces and etc. It's like, of course they do, because thou protest too much. Every accusation is a confession. The sickness is in their minds. So they're like, well, of course you're sick like I am, because they're monsters. So they can only see things through a monster's lens. I've had conversations like that. I don't know what to do about that. I'm a pretty, you know, liberal guy, not liberal in the way of politics, but I feel like is hard lines that I draw in society of who can sit with us in a normal civilized society. I feel like, you know, people can be redeemed, but this is a thing I don't know what to do with. You know, there's got to be people smarter than me that have an answer for this. And it feels like somebody once said, you know, I've heard a million times over and over that SA, assault, is not really about the act. It's about the power you can have over those people. And this feels like that. This feels like a lot of these monsters are arrested development, you know, men who were failed to launch, and now they don't have any power in their own life. So the only power they can take out, they can exude, is over have a position of authority over somebody who not only can they socially not fight back because you have a social position of authority over them, they also physically can't resist you. It's interesting that this is getting news time, Shannon says. Boy Scouts have been pursuing cases like this for part of a decade, and they even have a procedure in place. So they've done it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, like I said, the Boy Scouts, another organization. You know, I was in the Boy Scouts as a kid, you know, based on Judeo-Christian values. Supposedly people of the book, you know, of the Abrahamic faith, but who are willing to sacrifice their children to demons so the organization just can keep going in an unbroken chain.
The Boy Scouts of America.
Kicked out, fired from his job at the Boy Scouts, and his name added to its ineligible volunteer files.
Oh, that's sad.
Files otherwise known as the perversion files. Blacklists of scout leaders suspect.
Yeah, you've got lists like these are lists of people who should be in turbo jail. Not on a list of you can't volunteer with us anymore. A list of here are names that have been reported to the police with the evidence. All right, get out of here, Reza. Reza, we will miss you. And thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. You could also just keep the stream going. You could also just keep it the slightest a bit above mute and just keep it going so I could get the view. You could do that, but we're not gonna hate on you if you really gotta go. Bye. No, but seriously, no, this is a list of people who should be reported to the authorities, not a list of people who can't volunteer with you. It's disgusting.
Of sexual abuse or homosexuality. They became public in 2012. This is Vance Hine's so-called perversion file. It includes a termination memo from the Boy Scouts of America, stating Hine was aware of homosexual activity when he was camp director, which...
No, that's not homosexual activity. That's not homosexual activity. Homosexual activity, well, I was going to say there are sodomy laws and all that, but I was going to say it is not against the law. Homosexual activity is between two consenting adults. This is predation. This is demon behavior. This has nothing to do with homosexuality, my friend.
Is against Scout rules and failed to report such activity.
See?
Incidents that involved a camp worker he supervised who was sent to prison years later for sexual assaults on minors. In addition, this crime report says Hine had a sexual relationship with that worker and deliberately acted to prevent his removal from the camp staff, allowing the abuse to continue. The state trooper who wrote this report says he wanted to arrest Hine for endangering children, but no charges were ever filed.
Do that.
Hine describes how he lured and abused Melvin Novak in this deposition taken last year.
Did you talk to Melvin about a journey that he would have to undertake, a brotherhood?
Yes.
Was that your way of grooming him?
Yes.
Even though Hine didn't admit to the abuse until years later, in between that time, he was able to convince the Boy Scouts to reinstate him. He had powerful supporters.
Cool.
These letters were all written attesting to Vance Hine's character, including this one from Hine's influential Mormon bishop, Jack Moyer. It says, "Hine is a member of my congregation. I have full faith and trust in him in his dealings with all our young men at church. He is highly respected and liked." In a deposition, Bishop Moyer, who is now retired, admits he just didn't do enough digging.
If you had it to do all over again, would you have done some investigation?
Absolutely. I wouldn't have written the letter either.
The bishop's attorney puts the blame solely on the Boy Scouts of America.
If the Boy Scouts had disclosed to Bishop Moyer the information they had in their files, there was no way that Vance Hine would ever have become a Scoutmaster. And he would have been subject to excommunication.
This is not that complicated. You have one pedophilic organization protecting another pedophilic organization. This is not rocket science, y'all. This is thick as thieves. That's all this is.
By the church.
The Boy Scouts of America declined our repeated requests for an on-camera interview, but in a statement said Vance Hine's membership was revoked for reasons unrelated to child abuse. When he reapplied to the Scouts, a thorough review was conducted by many community and scouting leaders, and his application to be an adult volunteer leader was accepted. While declining to comment further.
And let me tell you something else. This isn't talked about, and it's not a main issue. But this isn't talked about at all. I would say not enough, but not at all. It's like, you know who would like to be a scout leader? Me. Like, it would be cool to take a bunch of young men and go out and teach them how to like shoot and do survival wilderness stuff. All the stuff I learned from the Marine Corps, right? To teach them how to be self-reliant and self-sufficient. But do you think I'm doing that? I'm not going out there and putting myself in that kind of, I don't want to say danger, but it's just like, if you're a man who's not a monster and you want to be somebody in a helping profession or have a helping activities like this that put you around children, you're already looked at with scrutiny. Male teachers, male coaches, male, Boy Scout leaders, because you're looked at with scrutiny because there's so many disgusting creatures out here preying on these children. So if you have a thought about doing something like this, you're not going to do it because you don't want to be you don't even want to be like looked at or talked about like that. That is like the second, or I should say third or fourth tier outcome of this, that normal people aren't going to want to have all this scrutiny because these scumbags make the normal people feel some kind of way. And so the only people left who want to do this kind of thing and be close to your children are going to be these, I can't say demons and monsters. I have harder words to say for them, but this is twitch.com with TOS, and I don't want to have a TOS violation.
Further on the Novak case, the Boy Scouts did say, Our efforts to protect youth were plainly insufficient, inappropriate, or wrong. We extend our deepest apologies to victims and their families. The Boy Scouts of America says it has taken steps to prevent sexual abuse.
And your message to the Mormon Church?
Do something. Do something now.
Man, look at dude.
In
He's
the
like
Mormon
welling up.
Church's first interview on sexual abuse in the Boy Scouts, we sat down with church elder L. Whitney Clayton.
What do you say to Melvin Novak?
You got 3 names like that, and first of all, and the first one starts with a letter, an abbreviation. Already suspect. Already, anything you have to say, I'm disregarding. You got like a serial killer name, dude.
Say to him and to anyone else who has been abused in the church or out of the church, I'm sorry that you've gone through what you've gone through. It's a horrible thing for anybody to be abused.
Clayton made it very clear, unlike decades ago, the Mormon Church has implemented safeguards.
Oh, he's very sorry, guys. He's very sorry that these children's lives are ruined. They've grown into grown men, and their lives are ruined. And they can't have real relationships anymore. But he's very sorry, guys. He's very sorry about that.
To try and prevent it.
We want this message to be clear. No child should have to endure child abuse, period. That's what zero tolerance means. We want our members to know what to do. We want leaders to know what to do. We take extraordinary steps. We put safeguards in place. We build our buildings. We remodel buildings in such a way that these doors have windows, and the 2-adult policy, the annotations on church records, paying for counseling, all the things that we do are designed to do what we think the Savior would do to protect children in a world that has lost its moral compass.
Can you say with absolute certainty to all moms and dads, our LDS Boy Scout troops are safe?
I can say that we do everything we possibly can. I don't know anyone.
I don't hate that. And I'm going to be honest and fair. Like, I know I was memeing about this guy. He also has thumb phrenology. But, like, that's fair, because in a world where just sickos are going to be drawn to this kind of stuff, you can't be 100%. It goes back to what I was saying before. Like, I don't know how parents are supposed to navigate this world. I really don't know. But if there are policies in place like that, then that's a good start. That's a grand start. Honestly, the way that you would fix something like this, you're getting. I think I'm gonna go off on a little rant here. I think that the reason why, again, the final boss of everything, in my theory of everything, the final boss is capitalism, right? I really think that because parents have to work 2 and 3 jobs to try to just keep a roof over their kid's head and, food in their stomach, and they have no time to really be parents. So you have situations like this to where you're offloading your parental responsibilities. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It is what it is under American capitalism, right? It's one of the many reasons I don't have kids. But you're offloading your parental responsibilities on the men like this, organizations like the Mormon Church or the Boy Scouts, right? And so now you've got a situation where these people who really aren't in your circle of, it takes a village. They aren't in your village. They're from a completely different village. And you really don't know these people. You don't see them every day. The only time you see them is when you interact with these other agencies, Boy Scouts, church, stuff like that. And they're there and they're primed. The whole reason they're there, they in those positions is to take advantage of your children because they are demons. And you don't know that. And you're just trying to do the best you can, and you're working 2-3 jobs trying to make ends meet, and you don't have time to raise your kids and to get involved in your kids' life and to check in on them. And these demons know that, and they take advantage of that. If more parents had the material resources and the time to be more involved in their kids' life, so these monsters know, these abusers know, these predators know that, hey, little Johnny's dad is going to be there at the Boy Scout meeting. Hey, little Johnny's mom is asking, You know, what about Mr. So-and-so? You know, where do you work? What do you do? Why don't, you know, I want to know everything about your life. If you're going to be sitting here spending time with my child, you have a lot less of this, and they would have to move on and find easier prey.
Anywhere
Capitalism,
who offers perfection,
the end boss,
except the Lord Jesus Christ. And we're not perfect, but we're doing the very best we can.
Kira is here with me now to talk more about this incredibly disturbing investigation that you've done. What happened in the Novak case?
Well, the case is settled now. Melvin is trying to move on with his life. He's in really intense counseling, trying to raise a new baby with his wife. The LDS Church said it was not held liable.
Good luck, bro.
And did not have to pay in the settlement.
Oh, okay.
Boy Scouts, however, wouldn't tell us, wouldn't comment on the settlement.
And what about the former Scout leader Vance Hine, who we saw?
Well, that's that. You can just allow monsters to be associated with you and abuse children, and then just be like, we're not liable for that. Them's the breaks, I guess. Well, that's that.
They're admitting to what he had done.
He was on probation for the Melvin Novak case. Caught with child porn, in prison now, serving up to 30 years. And as you saw by the piece, and this is what's so heart-wrenching as a mom, too, and a journalist, he just shows no remorse, no feeling at all, and had no problem talking about how he abused.
Sociopath, psychopath, sociopath, monster in human skin. That's how that happens.
And he went into
Melvin.
great detail, didn't he?
Oh, yes. When asked certain questions, he had no problem admitting to what he did. He has been excommunicated from the Mormon Church, and we did reach out to him for an interview, but he never responded.
And what about the other lawsuits that you mentioned against the Mormon Church and the Boy Scouts as well?
All of them settled, except for one that's still pending in Idaho, so we'll be following that, of course.
Who was killed at Burning Man has been identified. The person.
All right, let's look at something uplifting though. This is man confronts pedophile in Mormon Church. This is pretty uplifting. We ate our vegetables. Now we can get some dessert.
Stand before you today and talk a little bit about. Brothers and sisters, I'm happy to stand before you today and talk a little bit about my experiences and journey to truth. My name is Roger Stevenson. Not from this ward. I grew up just down the street. From the time that I was about 11 to the time I was 13, groomed me and sexually molested me. He's sitting right here in your congregation today. And
let shame the devil. Say the name and shame the devil. Let's go.
Yes, sir.
This is not a place to make an accusation.
This is not the place. Where is the place? Where is the place to do it? If you're not going to put him on blast in this organization that protected him, the LDS Mormon Church, where is the place to do it then?
It's not an accusation, it's the truth.
Okay, we've turned off the microphone. We're gonna if you want to visit with me in the foyer.
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. I have a signed confession.
That was it? That's crazy. I need to learn more about this. I just picked that out because I thought it was interesting. Damn.